I don't know what your workspace looks like, but mine often looks like complete chaos. In today's video, we're going to take that chaos and we're going to turn it into some nice wall decor. We are going to be using some thrift store frames and some products from Iron Orchid Designs. My name is BJ, my business is called Junked Up, and I am so happy to have you here. For all of the projects in this video today, we are going to be using some moths and butterflies from the Entomology decor transfer from Iron Orchid Designs. I have two of these frames that I scored at a thrift store, and I bought them particularly because I liked the really thick beveled glass that was in them. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint them. I am using DIY paint in black velvet, but you can use any black paint that you want. I gave it one coat, let it dry, and here I am giving it a second coat. After letting all of the paint dry, I decided I wanted to add a little bit of bling to my frames. So I'm going to use DIY Paint Golden Rule, which is a gold gilding wax. Now ultimately you would want to seal these frames first and then do your gilding wax last. Quite frankly, I just forgot to seal the frames, and since they're just hanging on the wall, it doesn't really matter. I like to apply my gilding wax with my finger, but you could certainly use a small artist brush if that's what you wanted to do. For the background, I am going to be using the Kindest Regards stamp from Iron Orchid Designs, turmeric ink, also from IOD, and some scrap paper. It's like craft paper. I think it may actually have been packing paper that I just had laying around. I like to dry fit my design first, just so that I can kind of see what it's going to look like before I get started. I will list all of the products I'm using in today's video down in the description box below. I will also drop a link to the Iron Orchid Designs retailer list so that you can find the IOD retailer nearest you. For me, the easiest way to get ink onto my stamp is to just use the ink pad itself. I make sure I have plenty of ink on that stamp, and then I just blot the stamp, making sure that it's fully covered. The key to getting a good impression with your stamp is to make sure you don't shift your stamp once you've laid it down, and then just use nice even pressure over the whole thing, just ensuring contact with your surface. Two quick things when you are applying your decor transfer to the glass. The first thing is you want to make sure that your glass is clean and dry, and the second thing is that it's kind of a one and done situation. That glass really wants to grab that transfer, so as soon as it makes contact, it is stuck. So you want to make sure that you have the placement worked out before you actually put the transfer down. I eyeballed the placement of my transfers because that's just kind of the way I roll. A better way to do this would probably to put your glass on a surface that has grids, and then you can evenly space and place your transfers and make sure that it's in the middle of the glass and that it looks perfect. I don't like perfect, so I'm totally okay with the eyeballing method. Every once in a while, you may have a little piece of that transfer that didn't adhere to your surface. That's okay, it's completely fixable. I just laid mine back down where it needed to go, used my tool to rub it back on, and voila, nobody would ever know the difference. So when it came time for me to assemble the project all together, I realized that I didn't have a way to get the glass to stay in the frame. Hot glue to the rescue. I imagine you could also use a clear silicone caulking. That would work as well to keep that glass in place. I also used my hot glue to attach the stamped craft paper to the back of my frame. And finally, I needed to attach a hanger, so I just measured, found the center of my frame, and attached my little sawtooth hanger, and now we are ready to hang this up. pretty happy with the way that these two turned out and decided I needed to make more. So I went out shopping and found some old gold frames. I will readily admit that I have a weird soft spot for these old gold frames, and these are particularly nice because they have a curved glass in them. The first thing I need to do is take the frames all apart so that I can get to the glass so I can clean it. You often don't realize how dirty these old frames really are until you take them apart and clean them. I generally use Windex or any kind of glass cleaner to get them nice and clean. Occasionally, I will use a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser if I can't get all the dirt off with just the Windex. I laid the clean glass down on another piece of scrap craft paper and just traced out the sizes that I needed so I know exactly where I need to stamp. Although I'm using a different stamp for each of the frames, the design is still going to be cohesive for the whole thing because I'm using the same color ink and the same brown craft paper for each one. For the largest frame, I'm using the Fronds stamp. Now mine was brand new out of the package, which is why I sanded it. That is called conditioning your stamps, and that's something that you want to do when your stamp is brand new. Just give it a light sanding. I use 220 grit sandpaper, and it just roughs up that stamp a little bit so that the ink, and if you're using paint, has something to grab onto. I like to lay my stamps out first dry with no ink on them just so I can kind of get a general idea of how I'm going to lay this out. Once I'm happy with it, then I go ahead and I commit and I use my ink. Just as we did earlier with the Kindest Regards stamp, the same technique applies here. Just nice even pressure so that your stamp makes contact with your paper so that you get a nice impression. I am using a freehand method of applying my stamp here, so just using my hands and the stamp. If you're not comfortable handling the stamps like this on their own, you could certainly use a stamping pad or even just one of the sheets that come with the stamps themselves. It looks great and I'm really happy with it, so I'm going to cut that out and set it aside while we work on applying the transfers to the glass. I found it helpful to put the glass back in the frame and then dry fit the transfer so I know exactly where to place them, but you could eliminate that step and just go for it and put your transfer on. Just remember that once that transfer makes contact with the glass, it is a done deal, and if you try and pull it up, most likely it will have already stuck to the glass and you're stuck with it there. Flipped it back over, grabbed my stamped craft paper, reassembled the whole thing, and I like it. For the medium-sized frame, I chose to use a piece of the Bohemia stamp set, doing everything exactly the same as I did for the large frame. Since the frames I was using had bubbled and beveled glass, I chose to apply the decor transfers on the glass itself instead of on the paper because I wanted a little bit more of a 3D effect. You could absolutely have applied the transfer right to the craft paper instead. And for the final and smallest frame, I chose to use a piece of the Birds, Branches, and Blossoms stamp set, also from IOD, and my same turmeric ink, and doing the same exact technique that I did for the other two frames. I hope you liked this project as much as I enjoyed doing it. One last pro tip before we go. When you have little pieces of transfer left over to use for future projects, tape the transfer front to the transfer backing with a little bit of painter's tape, and that way you don't ruin the adhesive that's on the transfer. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me today. I will catch you guys next time. Bye.